This is the Grapple of Rye Show, episode 21, Tom the Headhunter Higgins. Welcome to the Grapple of Rye Show, episode 21. My guest today is the reigning and defending two-time Snake Pit Wigan Catch Wrestling World Middleweight Champion. He's a BJJ Blackbelt. He is a USA National Folkstyle Wrestling Champion, and he is the man behind Wrestle Wars. Please welcome to the show, Tom the Headhunter Higgins.
Thanks for having me, Brett.
Welcome.
I'm glad we could finally collaborate and get together.
No problem at all. It's an honor to have you on the show. And as I say, it's a long trek to get our calendars together, but it finally happened. So thank you for taking the time out. Our first question is always to anyone it's the first time on here. Where did it begin for you? Where did grappling or combat sports start for the Headhunter?
Like many pro wrestling fandom as a young child, and just being obsessed with that, and Goldberg and Kane and Undertaker and Stone Cold was my era. And, thinking 100% when I was a little kid, like while watching that and convinced that it's real, I'm like, oh, that's what I'm going to do one day. Like, when I'm in the WWE, when I'm in the WCW, that was just my mindset from as young as I could remember. And then once I found out it wasn't real, everyone kind of talks about it as you're growing up, just like they're saying like Santa's not real or whatever. It's like, the wrestling's fake and stuff. I'm like, yeah, right, man. How could it be fake? They hit each other with chairs and they jump off the top rope. Like, you can't fake that. But that's, what I was into. And my family was very good at baseball. Like, everyone in my family is baseball, like, obsessed and super good, like All-American pro and stuff. And I stunk. I was really bad at it. I wasn't into it. I was too bored for the game. But I was rough and, like, chunkier, stronger kid. So my dad put me in wrestling, even though no one in my family wrestled. So he just thought it would be something good for me to do, just as a little aggressive kid who couldn't play baseball. And my experience with that at first, again, he said he was bringing me to wrestling. And I was like, what? You're bringing me to wrestling? So I thought I was going to get in the ring and learn how to do that and jump off the top rope. But he's like, no, it's like a sport. And I remember being like so confused. They were trying to like teach me the rules. If they would have just said like, go roughhouse.
Sounds like the South Park episode.
Yeah, I remember. Oh, yeah, hilarious. I love that. And I remember being like, no, this is not what I thought. And funny enough, the first day I joined was like a Friday or something, I guess. And the next day there was a tournament. And they're like, all right, here you go. You can have some shoes and stuff. And we go to the tournament. And the funniest thing, too, is we're in the weigh-in area, and there's a girl on one of the teams. And my dad said, imagine that. Imagine getting your ass kicked by a girl. And I had to face the girl in my first match, and I lost. I remember I lost by points. I had no idea what was going on out there. I remember they tried to show me a single leg at that practice. So I was like just trying to reach in for a single leg, and she's like spinning around behind me and doing all these moves. I had no idea. But I remember I was so mad. And the first year I did it, again, I was a little kid. I was just showing up and I would rage cry every time I would get my ass kicked by these kids that knew how to wrestle. So I was super competitive, even though I didn't really get it until I got a little older. And even when I was, coming up, I was more interested in like skateboarding, and I was loved Dragon Ball Z and like other types of goofy nerd shit, video games, and I would get into scraps at the skate park when I was a little kid. So I maintained the aggressiveness, but honestly, like doing wrestling in middle school in my formative years, I definitely got my ass kicked a lot because I was a heavier weight. And some of those kids by like seventh, eighth grade, they were already becoming like man children going through puberty. And I was just, still a boy getting beat up by these man children. And I remember hating it, hating it. But
Like
what
the bit where
changed
they
me,
were telling you it was character building. It's character building. You get back in there.
100%.
Yeah.
But the way I look at it though is a lot of the kids who were like hardcore about it when we were young, because their dads were wrestlers or like they were the coach's sons or something, and
Yeah.
they were like very hard on them. Those kids were like burnt out by the time we were older, and they didn't like it. They hated the sport. To me, it was something I did when I was younger, and I wasn't that great at it. I was all right. Sometimes, you still get the experience from doing it, but I didn't really see much success until high school. And that was around the time, like eighth grade, I found the UFC, like Chuck Liddell era and stuff. And I was like, wait a minute. Like it clicked for me. Like wrestling mattered. Wrestling was a sport. Like,
Yeah.
it had to do with fighting rather. It's like I would get into fights when I was a kid, or I would lose a wrestling match and be like, oh, well, I could beat the guy's ass for no reason. I just had some delusional confidence as a kid. Like, no, well, if it was a real fight, that's how I used to look at it. And I was like, wait, wrestling matters. Like, there's a such thing as submissions. I thought that was only in WWE. Like, oh my God, that changed everything. And then I started, taking wrestling seriously and doing a sport because I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do then. It's like WWE, but real. Like, I didn't know about it before, and I didn't know about like jiu-jitsu or grappling. I thought the submissions were just the fake holds in pro wrestling. And yeah, just kept grappling, kept wrestling through high school, got into MMA, eventually jiu-jitsu, and then just here we are. Catch wrestling is the thing I'm most known for at the moment, and Irish collar and elbow. It's funny how those became full circle when you tied pro wrestling to catch wrestling, though.
That's what I say. It is a strange branch on the grappling tree for wrestling because I think it's because I've done that myself. I've done pro for a while, and I had long hair and everything then, and now I'm twice the size with no hair. But those
So you
days
were
are
a pro
gone.
wrestler?
Oh yeah, I did it for about
Sick.
just under 10 years in England. Yeah, well part time, but
That's awesome,
I
man.
was I was trying to think. Yeah, it was fun. I mean, it's like most the traveling can be a killer. But the
I'm sure.
actual shows were like I did like the fun, but in the end I just got a bit fed up. I was missing too much thing different events, or it'd be like someone's birthday and they were like, "Oh, ring us back when you're back in town." And you get in town at sort of midnight and they go, "Oh, no, we've all gone to bed now." And you're like, "Ah." And things like that and birthdays and so yeah, but it was all fun. It was all fun and I enjoyed it and got to see a few people along the way. And I mean one of the guys that sort of trained me at the beginning, Robbie Brookside, does the NXT for WWE now. So and he's able gone on to sort of bigger and better things and he's a trainer over there now. And
Nice.
I can still remember doing all those squats. That's probably why my knees are bad nowadays, but it was fun at the time. But yeah,
I
it
was
was
going to
it
ask
was it
that.
was all good.
How was the training related to catch wrestling, like over there in England with the pro wrestling lineage? Does it pay homage or like take influence from the old catch?
I think nowadays I was at a very weird stage because I retired in 2008, so I sort of started training sort of the end of the 90s. So again, I'd always grown up with it and gone to all the British shows, and then found America wrestling on satellite TV came out, and it was like, whoa, like, it's exactly what you were saying. These guys are amazing. What? Of course, it's real. Look at them. And but a lot like Robbie Brookside, who I trained under, had trained under a lot of the people that had come before him who knew how to do it. Like even if it wasn't Wigan, they'd met people via Wigan. It was that kind of thing. Whereas a lot of it nowadays, again, I might be wrong. I'm not that in touch with it nowadays, but it was getting to be the more. Can you do a backflip? It's like, yeah, but I could do a
Oh
double
yeah,
wrist lock,
sure.
and it's kind of that style was changing. The British style was kind of there are still a lot of guys that have got that style and do it well, but a lot of British wrestlers wanted to be Rey Mysterio or who would do Guerrero or whoever was flying around at that point. It was becoming more like that rather than the grounded style it was. And I think that's where, dare I say it, I'll probably get a lot of crap for this, but like Japan, I think has lost a lot of its style by China or the new Japan sort of stuff. Anyway, it's become very much what you see
Acrobatic.
on other shows. Do you get what I mean? And it's all become the same thing. The Lucha Libres kept their own style still, and that kind of, and it's still a success down there. But I think the ones that lose their way are the ones that lose their own flavor, their own style a little bit, and it's coming back. And there are people bringing it back, but I think that's
Of
where
course.
like the differences are. I think a lot of wrestlers in this country, if they just stuck to the British style, probably would have got to other places a lot quicker. But rather than doing, it's like someone said to me when it might have been Robert that said it, why do you want to do that? They've already got 5,000 Americans to do that. They want one British guy that could do this. You know, it was sort of, and it was, to me, I thought the training was the same or even harder because you're just drilling it and drilling it and drilling it. And, you know, well, like you do in normal, it was, yeah, no different than normal martial art to me. And apart from you got shouted at a lot more and you had to be, because it was that thing of making that weeding out the people at the beginning. When years ago they break your leg and see if you come back, but they can't do that anymore. So they just try and grind you into the ground. But
That
it was
sounds like
fun.
a
It
fun
was fun.
experience for sure. And like
Yeah.
you said, it is a weird branch on the grappling family tree because it all was, the folk wrestling styles. Like everyone had their own style of wrestling and they would
Yeah.
meet in the middle and do stuff. And then the Lancashire and Wigan people decided, like, all right, we're going to roll on the ground now. We're going to go for, just finish them with any hold. And that evolved into people betting on matches and whatever. And somehow now legitimate wrestling and grappling matches, just pin or submit, has become, like you were saying, just flipping off the rope or more about the showmanship. And like, it's just wild when you look at all the different routes that it took. And we're going to talk at some point, inevitably, collar and elbow. That was
Oh,
like a
definitely.
mainstay before pro wrestling took over. Actually, pro wrestling is part of the reason why collar and elbow died out, is because it was a lot more exciting to watch, like the
Right.
thrill of
Yeah.
a worked match versus two guys holding a jacket, maybe going for an hour, getting a trip or two.
Definitely. So where did your interest in, so like you say, you've gone through school and college and you're doing the wrestling bit there. The UFC's come along into your world and you've now adding, like you say, like the BJJ and the other bits to your sort of toolbox. When did then Well, actually, first of all, I'm going to wind that back a little bit. What differences did you find in? Because obviously you've done the wrestling, you've seen the UFC, and that. Okay, I'm going to try this BJJ out. What was that like initially? Because obviously, from never being on your back to suddenly having to be on your back, it can be quite a weird thing. I found.
Right. I was always trying out submissions, like with my friends or whatever, or at
Yeah.
open mats and in the backyard. So I was trying to dabble. So I kind of knew what I was getting into. I was pretty much obsessed, and I would shoot into guillotines a lot. That's for sure. I'd leave my neck out, get caught with guillotines a lot. Definitely got stuck in side control plenty of times. And I realized though, like what an advantage wrestling was versus people who maybe were more MMA fighters or strikers or jujitsu guys, even
Mm,
that once you learned to defend the jujitsu and add in that aspect of it, you'd become much better. I know I used to be a pretty stiff and like rigid athlete, like almost like clumsy, like everything was power. And like my wrestling was a lot different when I was younger. I would try to like bully the guy. And once I started doing jujitsu, I kind of learned the flowing and the yielding like side of grappling, if you will, and
hmm
kind of taking the path of least resistance and catching people and let them do the work and getting really good with throws and stuff like that. So that definitely influenced my style a lot. But I always tried to keep an emphasis on the wrestling. I always tried to, keep a wrestler's mentality while rolling
Yeah.
or competing and work my takedowns, work top game. So catch wrestling was always something I was interested in. I'd be looking up or reading books, magazines, watching videos of Barnett, Eric Paulson, you know, just looking at all grappling styles. And I never really even had a coach in grappling, to be honest. I was done with high school wrestling. I joined MMA gyms and, I started training with the coaches there and stuff because of my wrestling background. I eventually became a coach at the gym and I had a, great group of mutual training partners and I was fortunate enough to be able to go to gyms with high level partners and kind of, learn everything I can everywhere I could. But I didn't have like a true coach or academy or anything. I was kind of just winging it. So I always tried to take what I could from everywhere. And I always thought catch wrestling was cool and something I would like to get into, but there was just no resource for it until I flew over to England.
That's what I say. Like for me now, it's weird now because I'm 48 now, and suddenly everything I wanted when I was 20 is there, but my body can't do it anymore. But I was trying, just knee hanging off, leg hanging off. I was like, yeah, I can still do this. But because when I was younger, like Wigan had like it closed its doors, it had gone down. Then they came back as like the amateur club, and then eventually they started to catch again. But it was a magical Camelot in the north of England somewhere. Like you heard tales of it, people whispered it, and all that, and sort of you heard fables, but it wasn't around anymore. But of course now that's all back, and I went out. I'd done the level one up there. That was good. Again, my leg was hanging off by the end of that, but we stuck it out. So I was determined to
Where
at
in
least
England
do
are you?
that. I'm in Southampton, so we're like right down the bottom, sort of above the Isle of Wight. So
Are
right down the
you are
bottom.
you
So
in
it's
Cornwall technically?
nah, the other right in the middle. If you go like sort of from, well, it's about an hour outside London, but right down the bottom, where the Titanic left from.
Nice.
So our claim to fame is with the first 2 minutes of that film.
That's funny.
And there we
So
go.
is there
And
a is there a native folk style in your like village or district or whatever, like the Devon
no,
and
I mean it's more. I mean the wrestling side of it was not really. It's more. It's very much north of England. Then you have the Devon and Cornwall sort of side down there. But we kind of. I think we were just like the mainstream professional. I think that kind of got the professional circuit over the like joint promotions over the years through like the 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever, kind of got rid of the legit or the legit styles. Don't know if I had anyone. And then like and so like all the like the cat stuff up north, the different sort of shoot styles up north. And then Devon and Cornwall had their stuff going on. I'm trying to think now. And the Isle of Wight, which is just below us, that didn't really have anything unless it was taken over there as like a sideshow tour round. But now Southampton really didn't. It was just more like it was a location for the pro stuff really. It was on that circuit, and it kind of lost. Yeah, if it did have anything, I've not found much about it to be honest, apart from the fact of like when it had like the big dues, which were well, even like like pre-war, it was all the stuff that was still advertised as legitimate wrestling, but it probably wasn't. But we don't know.
I would love to have one pro wrestling match at least. I want to dabble in all the
Yeah.
different grappling styles, and I would love to train for and have at least just one pro wrestling match. That would be
Oh
so
yeah,
fun.
no, definitely, it is good, but it is, yeah, it does. I don't know. I just sort of realised I was spending far too much time on the back of a car.
Yeah,
Should
I
be
can
doing
imagine
something else. Yeah,
for a
but
couple minutes in the ring and some injuries to come with it.
oh, definitely, yeah, got more banged up than that than do for some of the other stuff. It's the only sport where you get injured, you have to carry on because
Yep,
it's not the end. But I don't think people appreciate the gutting out that people do in that sometimes because they've still got 10 minutes to go yet and they want to give you your money's worth, but like they just broke their leg or something. You find
right,
out later on they broke their arm or their leg. In a real fight they would have gone, yeah, done, but they
100%.
they carry on
And
for you. But
the years of
yeah.
training in a grappling sport or wrestling specifically is like dog years. Like 1 year in wrestling is 7 years in a regular sport.
Oh,
Maybe more like two or
definitely,
three, but the wear and
definitely.
tear is ridiculous. I'm 32 and I feel it. I feel it in my joints. All the years of training and just putting myself through brutal workouts, thinking that's the only way to like get better is just push, 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 push. I paying the price.
I'll tell you what's worked for me a little bit more, well, especially during lockdown, was the DDP yoga. I'm I'm under no contract. He's not sponsoring the show or anything, but someone else like that, like, because where it was lockdown and we were just literally in Southampton or in England, we had to pretty much stay indoors, and it was like I had to do something or like I'm going to go crazy. So I kind of got the kettlebells, found that somewhere online, and yeah, basically just sort of it was like a prison workout every day
Oh
because you
yeah.
couldn't go outside, and yeah, that helped. I found that was good for the movement and the joints for me anyway. But different things work for different people. But
Yeah, I had some personal bests during the pandemic too because there was nothing to do. Just
yeah,
lockdown. I did 1,000 Hindu squats in a row, and I had a video of me just pouring steam off my body after that. And I was just swinging the gatas and the maces a whole bunch, like. And it's fine. You could exhaust yourself like that. You had nothing to do but recover the rest of the week and sit inside. So screw it.
See, mace training is still on the list because I got very good in the lockdown with kettlebells, and I was like, oh, I've got to get some of these now. And then
I love the
just as I
mace.
got
Those are
really
great.
into it, well, just as I got really into it, lockdown ended, and then it was like, oh, back to work, and then suddenly it kind of. So I need to get back up because I think I would have been pretty good at that point. I think the movement's gone again now. I need to get the muscle memory back or whatever. But it's
It comes back quick. That's the good
yeah,
part.
good. But well, like I said, yeah. So where did your interest then? Because you seem to be like quite a sort of historian on that. So so you're doing the rest at school. You've heard about this cat stuff, and you're trying to again similar to me when you're looking at these fables and these people that mentioned it and following them what they're doing. Where did all the other stuff come from? Because you seem to have quite a very deep historical knowledge of all, like the different styles, like the Cornish, the Northern, then obviously your love for the collar and elbow stuff is grown out of that as well.
I
So
think part of it's just being a nerd of grappling and after doing it for so long and still having the interest, getting bored of like this, like certain styles. I had done the American, what we call folk style wrestling or like collegiate
hmm
wrestling from the time I was little when I got put in it through like to being 18. And then I was like exposed to MMA and jiu-jitsu and I was like, okay, cool. Like this is something else to do. But after many years of just doing jujitsu tournament, like coaching jujitsu, like no gi jujitsu. I mean, I did it and I got good at it and I loved the art, but like I was getting kind of bored with it too. And like when I'm trying to look for stuff to teach, and it was just interesting to me, like, okay, let's look at some sumo. Let's see what we could take from sumo. That's a cool style. And what actually interested me in sumo is for a little while, I think the way I was training or approaching matches strategically, I would get really gassed. Like I would try to overwhelm the guys in these like jujitsu matches, and I'd be gassed. And I remember thinking, sumo is awesome. You don't have to cut weight. You get to eat as much as you want. That's the opposite. And you don't need cardio. The matches are like 10 seconds tops. You just
yeah,
explode. I was like, I want to do it. So for a while, I was like, I'm going to do the US Sumo Open. The lowest weight class is around my weight, like 190 or so. And I've still never gotten around to doing that. So I'm going to have to check that off the list eventually. But I like the Indian Kushti wrestling too. It's how I got into swinging maces and
hmm
learning about figures like the Great Gama, and why I did 1,000 squats and these push-ups and stuff is because of him. And I think all that stuff is really cool, and those guys are inspiring. And as I was looking at all these different like Mongolian wrestling and stuff, I was just admiring the different aspects of wrestling and nerding out. And I remember like I was always into my Irish ancestry, and I thought like Celtic warrior type of stuff and like the fighting Irish and that the boxers and that type of shit was cool. But as a wrestler, I'd always looked for that. I was like, was there like some Celtic wrestling, or like Googling like Celtic wrestling, Viking wrestling, and you could find like the Norse versions and like pretty much every other thing, but there would never be shit for Irish wrestling, even Scottish backhold. But again, I'm like, well, where's the Irish thing? Like you'd think it would fit in, but then I'd look at it, Irish were known for the boxing and bare knuckle boxing. You'd even see in the street fight videos in Ireland, if somebody clinches or they end up on the ground, they'll break it up. I'm like, they must really just not have liked grappling, or they just didn't care about grappling. So it just wasn't a thing, unfortunately, until I don't know if you heard the podcast Hero with 1,000 Holds.
no,
That
I've
was
never heard of
Ruan
that.
McFadden. He's an anthropologist and he's a grappler too. He's just a really smart Irish dude who speaks like a bunch of languages. And he did a podcast that was talking about different folk wrestling traditions. I remember it was episode 1. I was on a plane and I was just like looking for something to listen to. And I saw episode 1, Irish collar and elbow wrestling. I was like, what the hell? What is that? How have I never heard of that? And this was probably like, I don't know, 2019, 2018.
hmm
And that was my first hearing of it ever, despite looking at all these different like grappling and martial arts. I always had
Yeah.
a feeling that was a thing, though. I swear, like intuitively, like I thought it was a thing and it wasn't there. Maybe it was just ancestral memory or a hunch or something. But once once I heard the podcast and like the work he was doing, like he had put out like a video or two as well, like they dug up from old newspapers. Like, yeah, there used to be a style of wrestling that was not only super popular and it was from Ireland, it was popular in the U.S. It was like the main combat sport all over the place. Like the heavyweight champ, like of the world, like the baddest athlete of those times would have been like the bare knuckle boxer and the collar and elbow champ, and then inevitably the catch wrestling champ. Those were like the guys of the day, like
Yeah.
the Mayweathers, the McGregors, the heroes of their day. And once I found that out, I was all in on trying to help bring that back because nobody alive would have known about it. Freaking no one in Ireland really knows about it. No grapplers really knew about it. I didn't, despite looking for it. So without hearing that episode and Ruan making that book and podcast, yeah, I wouldn't be as inspired to do this as I probably wouldn't have even been inspired. I still would have admired all these other things, but I definitely wouldn't have done Wrestling Wars and try to like go on this whole wrestling quest of mine.
So what is it then? So you're bringing it back. What are you doing? What's so anyone who's I mean, I've read a bit about it online and seen some of your posts. But if someone's like collar and elbow wrestle, what, and you're doing it, or give them the spiel. What is it you're actually doing?
All right. So, well, I'm really just trying to make people know about it for sure. Like, I visualized it as something that should be known as part of Irish culture. You know, like you got Guinness, you got potatoes, you got Irish dance, you got the music, the fiddle, like stuff like that. I feel like collar and elbow fits right into that, and it's something that should be at like these Irish festivals, or it used to be at like any type of big gathering, like a county fair, or even like funerals and stuff, was accompanied by collar and elbow matches. And Ireland itself, like you watch MMA and McGregor is a good example too. Like how would he lose? He would lose on the ground all the time, and fighters in Ireland and UK sometimes didn't have the strongest ground game because you guys didn't have like youth scholastic wrestling and stuff, right? There's a little bit of Olympic style wrestling, freestyle, and the catch has made a resurgence. But you even said it yourself, for a while it kind of was just a tail.
Okay, yeah.
Like there was no avenue to do true
Yeah, and
hardcore wrestling.
our school sports is not very good either, unless it's football. Sorry, soccer. If it's soccer, cricket, maybe rugby. I think we do have a school basketball team at our school now. And there might be a couple of other things, but it's all just tournaments. It's not the level and the money that like American sports get now for the college. And I mean, I still find it amazing that so many people from a town will go and watch a college game. Whereas if we had a college game here, there'd be like six people there, and
Yeah.
that'd be somebody's mum, their dog, and like the bloke that walked there by accident. It's just that whole. We don't have that in this country at all, and it's a shame, really.
And
And that's
it's
across
like
most sports.
knowing that like there is no wrestling out there. There's no, like folk style, something you can put your kids in, they go through the whole school. They're doing it. You can do it in college. There's clubs. If you want, you go further, you pursue the Olympics, you'd be on like world teams. But then I was like, dude, no one's ever even represented Ireland in like freestyle or any type of thing. Like the grappling is not there. The MMA is exploding. And I've gone and rolled and taught in Ireland. Their jiu-jitsu is great. The wrestling needs some work. And I don't know. I didn't even really know what I was setting out to do. I was like, I want to, represent Ireland somehow. I want to bring wrestling back to the culture of that type of, that part of the world. All the toughest dudes, like the people you want to highlight in that video series we were talking about, like
Yeah.
wrestlers from history. So many of them are from England, Ireland, Scotland, like the toughest bare knuckle guys. Like it's a fighting tough culture. Like it's in there, even in pretty recent memory. But the fact that it kind of just like fell out of part of the culture is wild. And I think it's a shame, and I think it should be back. Imagine
No,
if a couple.
definitely. It's a forgotten history. There's a rich history of it that's just been forgotten or just plowed over with something else now in this country today. I mean, it's all very much football or soccer in this country. Now each town's got a team, and that's where the sport sort of the community of the sport follows that round for better or worse. Some people are a little bit too passionate, but say anything. But you've probably seen them on the news over there when it happens. But so collar and elbow then, how is it different from other types of wrestling?
So it's very similar to Cornish wrestling or Devon. Is Devon wrestling a jacket style as well? I think so. Or is it a back hold?
Yeah,
So
above
it's very similar.
jacket above the waist, I think it is. Yeah.
Right. And then Breton wrestling, that's another French style. Like they're all Celtic wrestling styles, and they're related. Those ones are more open, where you can take the hold however you want on the jacket and throw the guy. they're all decided by takedowns, but collar and elbow, as it is in the name, you just hold the collar, you just hold the elbow. That's the style that was decided upon in Ireland and spread out, and people liked it because I found it fair. I could see the idea of it, like, all right, you want to take your grips, I'll take my grips, and we'll just see who could throw each other versus, more of a open style. But that leaves it basically just to legs. You can't bear hug the guy, you can't like snap him down, you can't let go of the grips, so you're forced to use legs. So it's very trip and sweep heavy. It was known as a fist fight with the feet too. Like it's much harder than it looks too. I remember because I didn't really like the gi. I'd only trained in the gi like a little bit. Most of my grappling was wrestling and then into no gi jiu-jitsu. So I didn't really have much jacket wrestling experience. I always loved the throws, and like I would try to study and take from judo, but collar and elbow was my first time really diving into the jacket wrestling. So again, to refresh what I said before, I kind of needed something new to spark my interest. It's just like another branch of grappling that was unexplored by me. Like, okay, let's get my foot sweeps really good. Let's learn how to throw with a jacket on, and let's try to bring a piece of history back to a culture.
No. That's it. And how's the reception been? Because obviously, you're doing events with this now. Is it something that people, what's the reception been? How are people getting on when they're trying it? Is it?
So people seem to have a lot of fun. It's been mostly positive. There's mixed reactions for sure. Because when I first was talking about it, some people were like, "Oh, you're nuts! Like, no one's gonna want to do this." Like, at first, it's not like I'm sitting here setting out to be a millionaire off collar and elbow or something. I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
push some fucking grappling style that I think is cool and I like, and get people involved.
It's
Okay,
no power slap.
yeah, exactly. Let's spar under the collar and elbow rules. If anyone wants to,
Yeah.
do it. I'll host a seminar. I'll host some
Excellent.
classes. We can get together, train. That's how it really started. Um, and there's Irish Cultural Center around here where I live, and I did a little demonstration there the past couple years. Then the first Wrestling Wars I ever had was like, all right, fuck it, I'll make a fight card basically of collar and elbow matches like they would have done a long time ago. Anyone who wants
Yeah.
to do it, let's go. And then eventually I was like, okay, the matches went by kind of quick, and like everyone had fun, but like I felt like we could have had more to it. So then I was like, all right, we'll do catch, we'll do collar, we'll do all types of wrestling styles. I have had that in mind, kind of maybe do one event of one style, one event another style, but now it's kind of just a mashup of all these wrestling styles, or it's almost like WWE if it was real. Like the normal matches are just a
Yeah.
regulation match, pin or submit, and then there's the random one-off matches like collar match, mixed styles, like the hardcore match or the ladder match and stuff like that. So that's
Because
kind of the direction
you're
it's
even trying to
taken.
get some tag team in there, weren't you? At
Oh yeah,
one
we've
point.
had some tag team, and now I see a lot of jiu-jitsu leagues doing tag team, and that's not like I came up with the idea. Like people have done it, and it's from pro wrestling, and it's hardly an original idea. But we had some viral videos of tag team moments that got like millions of views, and then shortly later, you see a lot of jujitsu. Like right now, people are sending it to me all the time. Like tag team jujitsu is the future. Tag team is the future. I'm like, man, I gotta step it up on my content game and showcase what we were doing with the tag team. But it's a blast, man. Really, Wrestling Wars I made because of an idea. It's something I thought I would like to partake in, and
Yeah.
I created it. But unfortunately, I haven't got to partake in it. I've been doing all the nuts and bolts and boring sides and learning new skills and getting a headache. But it's been fun.
Oh, that's excellent. That sounds like a good thing. I'd like to go on one of those. Yeah, we need to do something like that over here.
I'm going to
I'll be
bring it
up
over
for
there.
that.
Trust me. I will be bringing
Yeah.
it over there.
Wrestle Wars International. It's coming. Yeah, no, I'll be
It
up for that.
is.
I'll help out where I can, sir. So
Love that.
you're doing all these different styles then one day there's a catch wrestling world championships in Wigan. How do you how do you hear about this? How do you end up there? And how was it? Well, I know how it went, but
So, as like I said before, while I was over the years looking into all the different styles, of course, I nerded out and I found out about the snake pit. So I'd always been following the snake pit, knowing the history behind it, and I'd seen the world championships, but like I'd never been to England, I'd never been to Ireland. I never thought I'd make it over there for one of their tournaments. I
yeah,
thought that would be cool. Like as I see these world championships, I'm like, I know I could hold my own in it. Like I'd never competed in catch, but I was a wrestle heavy grappler, and like I've been beating black belts and grappling a lot. I always had my eye on that tournament. But what's funny is I kind of just decided I was going to go to Ireland in 2023. It's like I wanted to go on the pilgrimage, go to where my, ancestors came from and go visit some historical sites, just have fun. And I was like, maybe I'll teach some seminars. That could go towards my goal of like contributing to Irish wrestling, like which I thought was like a daydream one day. Like you said, what am I trying to do? I didn't even really know at first. I was like, that would be a way of doing it. Like there's not really wrestling out there. Maybe I could go teach some wrestling. And I just, wander around, explore, do a vacation, go somewhere I always wanted to go. And after I booked it, I saw that that's when the snake pit was going on. During like the 10 days I was in Ireland, I was like, all right, yeah, I'm going. I'm going to sign up. It's like right across the pond, as you guys say. So it's happening. So I made it my mission then, like, all right, do it then. And that's how I'll represent Irish wrestling. Like if I'm the guy who's trying to bring back collar and elbow and I go win a world championship after staying in Ireland and visiting all these sites for inspiration, then I did my part for Irish wrestling somehow.
That's good. And how did you find it then walking into the World Championships?
So I was
You're
alone.
on.
I'm
Sorry,
alone,
Carol.
and I knew, I knew I would do well because I'm confident in my skills. I train with tough people. I was confident that I've been doing it for a long time, and I'd studied and watched the tournament before, saw the kind of level and like style I was going to be dealing with for the most part, and I was well prepared. It was definitely an experience to go alone though and show up by myself. And I know Josh Barnett, he's the catch wrestling
Yeah.
legend, and like I said, I'd taken influence from him, and I knew he was bringing a team. I knew I was going to compete against one of his guys most likely. So it was just locked in moment. I was ready to go and pretty much guaranteed in my head that I was going to walk out of there with the belt, and it happened. I had a pretty good performance that first time around, and I did face Josh's dude in the final, and ended up as the champion. So that was a pretty fun go. It worked out. It worked out well for me.
But then you did it a second time.
I had to go back the second time, and I repeated it. I went down to some Irish sites and had some inspiring experiences. This time, though, I had Josh in my corner. I had, he actually messaged me after the Snake Pit tournament to try and get me to do one of his USA catch wrestling tournaments. I was injured and I couldn't do that one, but I did end up going with the Snake Pit people to California and doing Josh's tournament in the spring, like a few months after that first world tournament, world championship.
Oh, the ACWA one, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Or something like that, what they call it. Yeah.
American Catch Wrestling Association. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that was the spring open tournament. So I trained with some of the guys from the Snake Pit and Josh and Eric, and that was an amazing experience. I was able to win that tournament, and just kind of became friends with Josh. And he didn't have anyone in my weight class that second year from his team. So I was like, all right, you want to jump in my corner? So had a decent showing. And then in the semifinals of this past one, I tore my knee in the semifinal match. And I was like, oh, this sucks. Like, I was facing who was considered, I guess, the best Snake Pit and British catch wrestler, John Hathaway, the three-time world
British champion.
And
the
I knew he
British
was going to be
champion and
a tough
world
one.
champion. Yeah.
I already knew. I thought I was going to face him the first time. He just wasn't in the tournament the first time, but I knew the second time around he would probably be there, and that was going to be a tough match. And now I had to go into it gimped and compromised with one knee. But I had Josh in my corner. I had, the experience of being in Ireland and getting pumped.
Yeah.
And I had to go to a mental place of don't lose, just make it happen one way or another. I could have easily been like, he was really good. He's the best guy they got, and my knee was messed up, and at least I still whatever. No, I wasn't. I had to go pure mind over matter for that, and he was tough, and he put me in danger early for sure. Like I was like, I might try to throw him right off the bat because I know my knee's bad. Might as well try and, do what I can right away, get it over with. Except it went poorly, and I went flat to my back and had to roll through and deal with some adversity before I could compose myself, and ended up pinning him. In my opinion, the Snake Pit calls their pins a little fast. Like it's like as soon as you're down, they call the pin in that style, but that's the rules. So I put him to his back in a scramble. I'm happy it worked out for me in my way, but like I kind of even thought like, I should have held him a little longer. You guys should have given him a more chance. Like it felt like he got robbed a little bit. Like he definitely acted like that, and some people might have felt that way. I did put him to his back where he wasn't supposed to let me, with a conscious move and effort to put him to his back. But yeah, that's just the rules. But I was able to get the second world title, and I was happy about that. Obviously,
Okay. Are you going back this year?
I'm going back for sure.
Because I was talking to Finn Finn Marshall the other week, and you're both on for your third, and if you get your third, you keep the belt, and
Yeah,
no one's done that yet. And
no one's done that. So
so
there's
I'm
actually,
gonna have to try and get up there this year because I couldn't make it last year, but I need to get up there this year 'cause I think it's going to be a bit of history making going on
I
because
think so, because there's
the
actually two other wrestlers too, two on Josh's team. The guy in the weight above me, I don't know if that's light heavy then, Brett Farr, he's
oh
going to
yeah,
do first third. He won two in a row. And then above him at heavyweight, Angel is also going for his third. So they could
oh
be out
man,
four
yeah.
belts potentially.
Oh, I mean, just that heavy suitcase coming back though. Oh, is it worth?
The
Is it?
competition level has gotten better both years
Oh,
significantly.
easily. Yeah, you can see you go back and watch it, sort of followed it through, and it's just like every year it's just growing and growing, and it's really good to see because it's and the fact that like those people are coming over, like say you guys are all coming over as well, it just gives it so much more sort of value because I think um that is the Wigan staple. I know there are others around and things like that, but that is that's the sort of. I remember when I went up there, I was just like took my picture under the sign, and people were like, "Oh, what you did?" I was like, "Cause I think some people, like for me, at 14, I was looking for that, and it didn't exist when I got there like 4 or 5 years ago, and it was like, wow, it's I don't know, it's just weird." And then we were practicing one day, and Roy just walked in and sat down, and I'm like, you know,
It is pretty crazy.
and everyone else is like, "Keep drilling, keep practicing." I'm like, but that's hi, Mr. Wood. Just totally like fanboyed. Hello, thank you, nice to
Yeah,
meet you. And it
I
was
had
just
him in
like,
my
yeah, yeah, I'm all
corner.
right, mate. Yeah, yeah. It was it's amazing.
My past few corners in the last year or so of competing, I had Roy Wood in one of my corners, I had Eric Paulson in one of my corners, and Josh Barnett in one of my corners. You can't beat it.
Yeah, no, you're not gonna beat that, are you? No, that's not bad at all. So, well, yeah. So you're going back this year. And you're going for the Threepeat. What other targets have you got for yourself now then? Because obviously you've got a lot of irons in the fire going on with your revival of Colin Elbow, your Wrestle
Definitely.
Wars, your own career as well. Obviously, world title to defend. What else? What else? What else you doing?
So I'm going to be returning to submission grappling or no-gi jiu-jitsu
Hmm.
for the first time later this month on a thing called ninja grappling. So I haven't competed in a straight jiu-jitsu rule set in a while. The last few years have been either a folk style wrestling tournament or maybe the odd beach wrestling tournament or catch. So it's kind of fun to dabble back in again and
Yeah.
test. I know there's a lot of eyes on jujitsu and different grappling promotions and stuff, and I kind of want to represent, catch or collar or Irish wrestling, whatever it may be, in the process, and go, show that those styles can contend or are better than some jujitsu styles.
Yeah.
The guard pulling. Nobody wants to watch that.
Um, I'm I'm more against the butt scooting than the guard
Yeah,
pulling.
I mean guard pulling. Yeah, butt scooting, just sitting down and walking towards him. Yeah, that's lame.
So it's just like, or at least they go. I'm like, "Man, at least grab him first and then sit down." I
For
don't know.
sure.
I still think if you do that, you should get a free kick just to sort of, because it's
Something.
just sort of, yeah, you need to do something. What do you make then? Because only this week or last week, Hulk Hogan is now in the freestyle wrestling business. It
So
seems on paper, I mean, again, as someone looking across the pond to you guys, that this could be a chance of putting some money into the sport, but also it's Hulk Hogan, and
right.
he's a bit at the moment. I mean, don't get me wrong, professional wrestling wouldn't be here today without him, and he was a hero of mine growing up. But as you got older, you realise he might just be a little bit more about the money.
100%. And
And
I hope it does
is it
well.
how's it been accepted? Is it
I
a thing? Yeah,
I've seen mixed responses, and I have a mixed opinion on it myself. I think it could be a good thing, but to be honest, like it depends because wrestling's hard to watch, you know? Like, have you ever tried to watch the Olympics or like the World Championships? It's always behind like weird subscriptions and a million paywalls, and like they only have
Yeah.
one mat on at a time, and like they barely have a schedule. It's like it can be very difficult to watch high level wrestling. So maybe if they make it very accessible and like on TV, it'll grow it. But I also just think, and this is kind of my inspiration with Wrestling Wars and like interest in some of the folk styles, they're very decisive and simple. Like, oh, you threw the guy, you win. You pin the guy, you win. The points in like let's say judo or freestyle wrestling, like yeah, it's cool and it is a way to, you know, approach a match and decide a match, but the fans don't know. It's not very spectator friendly. Sometimes you're like, what's happening? Like this guy took this guy down, but he flipped him. So like he's winning, or like he hit his head on the ground while he was flipping the guy, but it looked like he kicked his ass. Like so there's just a lot of spectator problems I feel when it comes to those styles. It's cool. Obviously, I love it. And it's just another style of wrestling. It is exciting in its own right. But usually, if you're a fan of wrestling and you're a nerd of grappling, is when you would enjoy that. If it was, you know, a little simpler, like pin or submit per se, or something
Yeah.
like sumo, and they present it the right way. So I don't know how it'll do with freestyle, but I like it either way. I like the attention in wrestling, but I still think I got something cooking with my formula.
Definitely. So then, I forgot to say now. Yeah, so we're talking about future goals. That's right. And you've got the Nogi grappling coming out. Is there anything left that you still want to? You said about sumo earlier. You'd like to try that, and you said
I
about
would like to
pro.
do that.
Have you got any other targets for yourself that in X amount of years time, or it's still like a bucket list or a thing like that?
So I definitely want to get that third title. I've yet to do a collar and elbow match. I've hosted plenty of collar and elbow events. I've provided plenty of collar and elbow matches. I've taught plenty of collar and elbow, but I haven't done a match yet. So maybe I'll organize with some people, and this is a goal too. We'll see when it happens to provide the collar and elbow world championship, and then I could jump in the mix and I could get a collar and elbow world title. It's just I haven't joined my own thing either because it just feels corny and dumb. Like why would I didn't set this up to be like, hey, look at me. Like, hey, I'm just
I'm the
trying to,
best.
provide something
Yeah.
cool to grappling. But I do want to get in on the fun. I want a tag team match. I want a collar and elbow match, just personally. But maybe MMA again as well. It's always in the back of my head. I had an MMA
Yeah.
fight on my 20th birthday, but I had that was my one and only MMA fight. I choked the guy out pretty quick, and I was all in on MMA for a while, but I had eye injuries really bad for a while, and I couldn't do any striking whatsoever, or my eyes would be blurry and like stinging, and I'd be vomiting sometimes from the pain. It was crazy. Just for a while they just wouldn't heal. I even had to grapple in goggles for a little bit because even the
Oh,
little
man.
grazing like blow or poke to the eye would have me like debilitatingly injured. It was a,
Oh, right. Yeah.
recurring corneal erosion. I had two separate cornea injuries or like retina scratches. I just had really bad luck with my eyes for a while, and they could not tolerate anything. I was thinking about quitting grappling at a point. That's why I got the goggles. I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a night fighter. I'm gonna do the armored combat. I can't get hit in the eye then. It's like I can't box, I can't strike. Now I can't grapple apparently without getting poked. So I'm just gonna be like an armored combat fighter. So that's something else I'd like to do. Pro wrestling, collar and elbow match, and an armored night fight.
I have seen clips that over here. It was like a UFC octagon and people with
Uh-huh.
suits of armor and maces and stuff. It was just like, oh well,
That's hilarious.
people are going to pay and see it. Why not?
Right.
Now, one thing I do need to ask you about. Tell me about this ghost dog at the cemetery.
Okay.
I've
So
got a bit of a legend of this, and
yeah, where did you
it's
hear about this one?
it was I can't remember. I don't know if you talked about it. Was it on another podcast? It was something I'd listened to ages ago, but before I'd kind of realised you were you, if you know what I mean. I think I'd heard it because I
Uh-huh.
just listened to different things
I've
anyway.
definitely
And then I
talked to some.
realized I joined the dots and realized who it was I'd listened to. It's probably about at least a year or two ago, I reckon. Was it in
Okay,
like an
so that
older
is
podcast or something?
happy to talk about that on a grappling podcast for sure because I've talked a lot of weird, mysterious stuff in my day. I love that type of stuff. Anyone who knows me
Yeah,
knows. So thank you for giving me that opportunity.
no
That's a weird
worries.
tale for sure. So there's a place I live right down the street from it. I grew up right down the street from it. It's one of the most haunted and like paranormally active places in the world. Like it's been on all the ghost shows and it's featured in that type of stuff. It's called Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. It's a cemetery literally in the woods. Like it's in a forest preserve. You have to walk down a path to get
I
to
got
it.
cold thinking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of folklore surrounding it. I'm sure a lot of it is, made up and just urban legend and stuff, but there is a lot of creepy history to it. Like they say mobsters and like Al Capone apparently himself used to dump bodies in the lagoon because there is a main road and then there's some forest or lagoon and then the cemetery is in the forest like next to this lagoon. So they said that mobsters would be dumping bodies right into that lagoon back in like the Prohibition era. Then they always said that like around the 60s, 70s, people would be going to party in there and there would be killers in there and they would murder them or they'd like sacrifice. There was people like doing occult satanic activities. There's no shortage of crazy like stories, or there's famous ghost photos taken of there of like the white lady is someone that they describe there a lot. Just tons of crazy lore surrounding it. And I'd been there plenty of times because I live right by it and I was into that type of stuff. And to go at night, you kind of have to sneak through the woods. They usually have a police officer guarding like the main forest preserve entrance. So like you can't go in. It's illegal to be in there after dark. So to get there, you'd have to take an even creepier walk through the woods like a mile away and get to the one path while avoiding the police. And we had seen some weird stuff there. You'd see like an orb or something at night, like, or you think you do at least, like, oh, what was that?
Yeah.
And think we catch a little recording of a voice, which I swear one time we did, but never anything, too crazy. But one time a friend of mine and I were there in the winter, and when you're in the woods in the winter, like no matter how dark it is, because everything's white, you can still see pretty clearly. It's like it's perfectly bright. And we were in there, we were walking around, and after the graveyard, you can just like walk through the woods too. And the creek was dried up and frozen, so we were walking in the frozen creek. So the ground is really high on both sides of us, and we're down in the creek. So that was creepy enough. And we're just like walking. I remember I thought I heard some like weird animal noise at a point. But again, when you're in these situations, you don't know, like if you're scaring yourself and your mind is playing tricks on you too. So you're like, oh, what was that? Like, oh, yeah, it's probably nothing. And I remember acknowledging that though, like that was weird. Like, all right, yeah, whatever, keep going. So we were probably walking around for like 45 minutes or something. And when we get back, we have to go past/through the cemetery to leave. And when we were leaving, I remember just catching my attention like a black mass, like just a figure, but not a person. It was like a very hunched over, like big. And again, as it's happening, I'm like, what is that? Like, there's no like, that's a tree. That's a garbage can, like something.
Yeah.
But what was real
Gotta
weird about
rationalize it there.
yeah, I could see as if you were looking at someone in like a crouched stance from behind, where you could see between their legs and like their legs are spread, like hind dog legs or something, almost
Yeah.
like kangaroo frogish looking, like. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I didn't say a thing. This is probably, I don't know, let's estimate 50, 60 yards away. And I'm looking at my friend. We didn't say a word. I just like look, and like we back up to where we're not in the cemetery anymore and just started running. And when I was running, I had like a different level of primal fear. Like I felt like prey fear, like get me the fuck out of here as fast as possible. And that was it really. Like we both saw it. We didn't talk about it till like we stopped running. Like, what was that, dude? Like, was that a person? It looked like a werewolf, or like I don't even know. Like, was it a person in a cloak? Like, was it a tree? Like, I'm not going back to find out, but I did go back the next day to look to see. And like, cause there's a exit too, like leading up to the lagoon, there's a fence pole, and then this was like right in between those fence poles. And I went and looked, like, was there a garbage can? Was there a tree stump? No, there was nothing. It was a figure. And then I learned about Dogman. Like, I'm sure you have, if you've, looked into cryptids or urban legends or something, that's like something that's really commonly talked about in the Midwest is a Dogman. And oddly enough, my friend who I was with, this was maybe like a year later or however many months later, called me freaking out that he was driving down the road of that cemetery at night. And he saw some type of like weird dog, like black canine thing, like running. And so then I had to look, and other people have reported like seeing crazy, like otherworldly things there, not just ghosts or paranormal. Like they say there's a lagoon monster. There was a couple other people that said the dog man. There was someone who said like uh, they felt they were becoming the ghost. Like they were hearing voices of people talking about him. Like, oh, I saw him. You know, that was one of the guys I met at Bachelor's Grove, and one of my many times there. His theory was that there's like a time disturbance in Bachelor's Grove, so he was there and he was seeing people in a different time that were seeing him as the
Like a
ghost.
time slip sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
man,
So there's
that's
crazy
weird.
stuff there. I can't explain it. I know I saw some weird figure, doggish, werewolfish type of shit there. And it seems so unreal, but like, I don't know. It's a mysterious place, man.
That sounds cool. I'm gonna look that up a bit more, I think.
Yeah, Bachelor's Grove's coming.
We'll do a spin-off.
Paranormal episode.
Yeah. But right, if anyone is listening to this and they're interested in the collar and elbow or Wrestle Wars or any of the bits you said, what's the best way anyone can get hold of you?
Probably my Instagram or YouTube, just HeadHunter Higgins. And Wrestling Wars is on my YouTube channel. There's also a Wrestling Wars Instagram and website.
Actually, I'll put the links in the notes as well. For then that's all we've got to do is click on them on the Grapple Rye website. And yeah, no, this has been amazing. So thank
Yeah,
you very much for taking the time today,
thanks for having me.
and or this evening, well, it's day for you. But yeah, no, thank you so much, and yeah, yeah, it's been really good. There's just a lot to go in, and I'm sure there's still more we could pick up on. But yeah, thank you for taking the time, sir.
Absolutely, brother. Great talking.
Thank you once again to Tom for taking the time to join us. This has been episode 21 of the Grapple Rise Show, and I've been your host, Brett Summers. Join us again next week for another guest. In the meantime, you can check out our socials, Facebook, Instagram, and all the others, and you can listen to us on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts and on YouTube. And if you'd like to watch, the video is on YouTube as well. So please give us a like and a notification and a subscribe and all that shiz. Yeah, and in the meantime, as I say, anything you want to check out about us can be found at thegrapplefry.com. And we're going to be back next week. So stay safe and stay on the mats.